Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Born in 1537, died in 1598. A farmer's son who rose to rule all of Japan, the second of its three great unifiers. He conquered a nation, ordered his own tea master to die, and turned on his own family to protect a child. This is his story. On a winter morning in 1591, the most powerful man in Japan sent a message to an aging tea master, ordering him to cut open his own stomach. Hideyoshi had conquered every rival, every province, every army. But there was one thing he could not conquer: the silence of a two-mat room. So he decided to end it. This is the story of a sandal-bearer who became emperor in all but name, and what he did once he reached the top. To understand it, you have to begin in the mud of a rice field. Hideyoshi was born in 1537, in a farming village in Owari. His father carried a spear for the Oda clan, and then went back to the fields. The boy had no surname, peasants were given none. He was small, thin, and quick, and he wanted out. He left home with nothing. Around 1558 he talked his way into the service of a young warlord named Nobunaga, carrying his sandals. The story goes that on freezing mornings, he warmed his lord's sandals against his own chest before handing them over. Nobunaga called him Saru, monkey, for his small frame and his restless grin. But the monkey rose. Never by birth, only by wits. While other men reached for their swords, he reached for solutions. He fought wars without fighting them. At Takamatsu, instead of storming the castle, he built an earthen dike and turned a river loose, and drowned the fortress into surrender. He would rather buy an enemy than bleed for one. And when Nobunaga was betrayed and killed at Honnoji in 1582, it was the sandal-bearer who avenged him within 2 weeks, marching his army back at impossible speed. Within 6 years, every great lord in Japan had bowed to a man born with no name at all. By 1588, Hideyoshi ruled almost all of Japan. And then he did the thing almost no one tells you about. He ordered the sword hunt, the katanagari. Every farmer, every villager, in every province, had to hand over their swords, their spears, their bows, their guns. The official reason was beautiful: the metal would be melted down to cast a giant Buddha in Kyoto. The real reason was colder. He made certain that no peasant could ever again do what he had done. He sorted the entire country into 4 fixed classes: warrior, farmer, artisan, merchant, and forbade anyone from ever crossing between them. A child would now die in the class he was born into. Think about that. The man who climbed from a rice field to the highest seat in the land reached back down and pulled the ladder up behind him. The single door that opened for one peasant slammed shut, and stayed shut for the next 260 years. There was one more thing Hideyoshi built: a tea room made entirely of gold. Walls, pillars, ceiling, even the kettle and the cups, all of it covered in gold leaf, taken apart and carried from castle to stun his guests. His tea master was Sen no Rikyu, the most respected man of taste in Japan, who taught the exact opposite. Wabi. Beauty with everything stripped away, a hut of 2 tatami mats, mud walls, a single flower, a doorway so low that even a lord had to crawl through it humbled. Hideyoshi had conquered every army in the country. He had not conquered that quiet. Gold could buy the room, but never the meaning, and the old master would not bow to it. So in 1591, Hideyoshi ordered Rikyu to take his own life. The reasons are still argued, but the truth underneath them is simple. The master's silence was the one thing in Japan that gold and armies could not touch. The ruler had won everything. He had never felt poorer. And then the man who had run out of Japan to conquer looked across the sea. In 1592, and again in 1597, he hurled 2 enormous invasions at Korea, more than 150,000 men, dreaming of marching all the way to the throne of China itself. It was a catastrophe. The armies pushed inland, then bogged down, starved, and bled for years in a war that won nothing. Tens of thousands died for the pride of an aging ruler who could not stop conquering, because conquering had become the only thing he knew how to be. But his true enemy was not Korea, and it was not a tea master. It was time. He had no heir. His only small son, Tsurumatsu, died as a child, and something in the old man broke. So he named his nephew, Hidetsugu, as his successor, and adopted him like a son. And then, late in life, against all hope, a second son was born, Hideyoshi. The old man's love curdled into fear. The nephew was no longer an heir. He was a threat. He turned on the nephew he had chosen, ordered him to die, and then ordered the killing of Hidetsugu's wives and children, more than 30 people, executed on a Kyoto riverbank. The peasant who had spared 100 enemies could not spare his own blood. All of it, for a 5-year-old boy. In 1598, dying, Hideyoshi did not list his conquests. He left a poem. Like the dew I form, like the dew I fade. All of Osaka, a dream within a dream. The man who had taken everything understood, at the very end, that he had been holding water. Over and over, he begged his lords to protect little Hideyoshi. They swore that they would. 2 years later, at Sekigahara, the alliances broke, and within a single generation the boy lost the castle, the name, and his life. The country passed to a patient man named Tokugawa, who had simply waited. Hideyoshi could seize a country, but he could not seize the future. The tea master, the nephew, the son, the harder he closed his fist, the faster each one slipped through it. He reached the very top, with no one above him to answer to, and the first thing he did was pull the ladder up behind him. If you had been in his place, would you have pulled it up, or left it down for the next one? Tell me in the comments. Tales of Old Japan publishes one story every Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. If this one stayed with you, subscribe, and read more at the Japan Dispatch, Letters from the Quiet Country. The link is in the description.